Story 1. TIFU by destroying a 15-year marriage. Some context. 10 months ago, I, 21F, adopted a dog. Obviously, when you walk a dog, you bump into a similar group of people every day from the local area who are also walking their dogs. One guy, approximately 40M, I met there, had a fairly obscure breed of dog, this is relevant later, and my dog enjoyed playing with one of his dogs. It started out completely normally chatting to him every few days when I saw him, but at some point I felt it start to shift and started to feel a bit uncomfortable talking to him, as it felt like he was trying to chat me up. He never said anything directly, but there were several small red flags. He eventually asked for my number, under the reason, we can meet up to let the dogs play together, which I was fine with. This was before there were so many red flags. And later that day I get a message from him saying, "So what are you up to?" Which I ignore because he has my number solely to communicate about the dogs, and I avoid him from then onwards, and have only bumped into him twice since then. Flash forwards to today. There's a lady and some kids with a dog of the same obscure breed at the local park. I was cautious at first, concerned that this guy would be there, but I then realized this dog was significantly smaller. Turns out she was just a puppy. I start talking to this lady after my dog goes to play with hers, and when she confirms she is this same obscure breed, I mention that I thought it was, and that there's a guy here who owns two of them, but I avoid him because he made me uncomfortable, and I felt like he was trying to hit on me. Turns out that's her husband, and they've just got a new puppy of the same breed. And he's at the kiddie park at the edge of the field with the other kid. I showed her the message he'd sent me when she asked, and she flipped out and called him over. She then called the number from my phone and his nephew answered. Now, I'm unsure if he'd given his old phone to him or if he'd left his phone at home and the nephew had picked it up, but she started screaming at him because it was saved under her husband's name in my phone along with his dog's names. I got out of there ASAP. She called me later on her phone after retrieving my number and asked me further details, of which I gave as much as I could, but I've tried to distance myself from the conversation. She said the message he'd sent me was very close to their 15th anniversary. I don't want anything to do with splitting apart a family who's been together 15 years and have 3 kids together. ETA. My gender as people kept assuming I was male. Tears of joy. The dog was a boer bull. I didn't originally want to say the breed as I was worried it'd give away too much info. Also for the smaller red flags, generally they were things I could write off if it was only that which happened, but there were so many little things that had accumulated. He often seemed a bit too eager to meet up at the park for our dogs to have a play date, and most of the times he suggested were after dark. On one occasion, I was using the exercise equipment at the park, and he came over to give me advice and used each piece of equipment after I'd finished on it. The vibes were generally just off, and when all of these little things combined, alarm bells started ringing. There were other things as well, but I can't recall them off the top of my head. TLDR. Accidentally told someone's wife that her husband had been hitting on me. There. They have 3 kids together and have been married 15 years. Story 2. TIFU. By crapping my pants for the first time in my adult life while my girlfriend is over. It's New Year's Eve. We were coming back from the store because I was dying of thirst and wanted to get some water and, why not, champagne. We're literally a block from my place, when suddenly I get this horrendous pain in my intestines. I park, rush through the door and into the bathroom, furiously trying to close it before my asshole explodes. I'm rushing to get my pants off and all I can think is, oh shit, and shit, I couldn't get them off in time. So here I am, on the can, with a bowl full of diarrhea in my pants. I didn't make it on time, and it's effing New Year's Eve, and I just crapped myself and am trapped in the bathroom and don't know how to tell my girlfriend about. She's in my room, and my towel, and all my clothes are in there, and I'm just completely effed. TLDR. I just crapped my pants while my girlfriend is over, and now I'm stuck in the bathroom and paralyzed with shame. Story 3. TIFU by making a fat joke. TFU. Literally today, we have a New Year's Eve game night at my church every year. So tonight, after the countdown, I was standing in a circle of people chatting about random things. A rather large man I didn't know very well and hadn't talked too much started to inch his way to door. My friend said, "You leaving, Brian?" And he responded, "Yeah, it's late, and I'm gonna turn into a pumpkin if I don't get out of here soon enough." He then placed his hands on his rotund belly and said, "Oh wait, too late." Now before I tell you exactly what I said, you gotta know that I have ASD, just not obviously so. I miss a lot of social cues, but have learned how to mask very well. However, when I am tired, or my attention is divided, my social observational skills go down the drain faster than you can blink. When Brian said, Oh wait, too late. I did not process that him grabbing at his belly was making a pun about his weight. All my brain processed was pumpkin equals tired and pumpkin equals orange. So I promptly responded, all you need is an orange spray tan and you're all set. Two of my friends got wide-eyed and gasped. I saw their reaction and recognized that I had likely missed something and instantly replayed the conversation in my head. It took me a solid 10 seconds to realize, and I just wanted to disappear into the ground, loudly crying. Thankfully, Brian had a great sense of humor and laughed and said, I don't even need that. They got white pumpkins too. So, anyway, less than 10 minutes into the new year and I already have my first social faux pas under my belt. Yippee TLDR. Brian said, if I don't leave soon, I'm gonna turn into a pumpkin. Grabbed his belly and said, oh wait, too late. Me, ASD, oblivious to social cues, missed the weight/round pun and responded, all you need is an orange spray tan and you're all set. Story 4. TIFU by breaking my stepbrother's nose. This happened about a week ago, but I still feel bad about this. My dog kept scratching at my door and clearly wanted to go out at like 5 or 6 in the morning. He always does, but I DK why that morning it pissed me off. I get out of bed and stomp my feet so that little asshole knows I'm annoyed. When I get to the back door to let him out, I swung it open as hard as I could. At first I didn't realize what happened, but hear a loud thud and blood-curdling screaming. Note, I should preface that the back door at our place is metal and heavy as shit. I've had it slammed in my face before it hurts like hell. Anyways, I turn the corner, and it legit looks like a horror scene in the garage. Blood is pooling all over the place, and my stepbrother is on his knees screaming bloody murder. Now I feel so bad, but he tried to get up but slipped and fell right in his own blood. I promise I'm not a bad person, but I legit couldn't hold it in and started laughing. Of course, though, my stepmom came rushing to see me laughing at her son in tremendous pain and didn't find my sense of humor funny in the moment. We rushed him down to the doctors and they popped his nose back in place and put in a splint. He told me we're good and all, but fuck, I still feel bad for doing that. He's been bringing it up ever since to tease me so well now everyone gets to know LMAO, TLDR. My dog woke me up early in the morning to be let out and cause I'm a grumpy asshole. I shoved the back door open, accidentally hitting my stepbrother in the face and subsequently breaking his nose. Story 5. TIFU by leaving marijuana tips out. Obligatory. This happened last night. I have a Puffco that I use to vape marijuana concentrate. I use Q-tips to clean out the excess after I take a hit or two. This is important to know. My roommate works nights and has a dog, and I have no problem taking the dog out to go pee and give her some company while her adoptive parent is at work. So I get home from work, and normally she would run up to greet me. This night I got home and she didn't come to the door, so I checked on her. This dog didn't look well. She was stumbling around, could barely stand, and just looked weak. I immediately contact my roommate and tell them what's going on. They come home from work instantly to take the pup to the emergency vet. They say the dog's symptoms are that of being high, but the urine test was weak. My roommate texted me and asked if there's a chance could have gotten into anything. I stop and think, and couldn't think of anything. I keep my flour in jars and dabs in the fridge, throw everything out when I'm done. Well, I must have forgotten a Q-tip, because I look for any clues in the living room as to why the dog is sick. And I see it, the Q-tip that was used to soak up a dab that had an end chewed off. This dog was BAKD. My roommate then came home and was relieved that their dog was okay in the long term. I feel awful about it and can't imagine what it was like for the dog. I covered all the vet bills due to my negligence, and thankfully the dog is okay and back to normal now. I've learned I need to throw out my Q-tips immediately. TLDR. $500 in vet bills later to find out a dog ate a Q-tip and got stoned. Story 6. TIFU by showing my bone art online. I, M19, was in Arsh Teenagers, a group I just recently started getting into. I was really starting to jive with everybody, and I saw this couple's photos upload, which I complimented, and I really just saw all this openness about intimacy and relationships, so I thought I'd jump right in myself. I uploaded a photo of my gift to my high school crush before I gave it a year ago. It's a special handmade pen made of cat bone which I took from my dead cat in the backyard. Now, I guess it's a little shocking, but little did I know it was going to blow up big time and get cross-posted to multiple subreddits with people saying I'm a serial killer, or a Jeffrey Dahmer, or an Ed Kemper. I mean, I'm just an artist, albeit maybe a little eccentric. Nothing to see here, let alone dox me over if ever it came to it. I guess I'm just a little rattled with how quick things can blow up, and I've learned my lesson about being, I don't know, a weirdo. I really should be more normal. In our time zone, It's already New Year, and it's a little embarrassment that I started this year with this blowing up in my face. I'm just really scared this might get launched some spell of witch hunt against me, considering the stuff they're saying, that I'm a serial killer, or a serial in the making, or that I was creepy with my crush, and that it would have been so much to sexual harassment. No, we're friends. I want this to go away. Never mind my bone art then. I'll just show my normal art instead. I'm not a serial killer. I'm an artist, TLDR. I went and shared a pic of the bone pen gift I gave my crush, and now everyone thinks I'm a serial killer. Story 7. TIFU by destroying the side of my mother's car. This will seem stupid, but anyway. I, 18M, went to pick up my girlfriend to go on a nice picnic for New Year's Day. We needed some bread, so we stopped by the supermarket beforehand, which has an underground car park. I hate parking there because there's so much that can go wrong in that car park. But my girlfriend wanted to park in the shade. My park wasn't exactly straight, but I stubbornly left it before going in to buy some bread. The next spot to me had this giant pillar, and after we came back, when I went to back out, I scraped the side of the pillar and half bumper had fallen off. Freaking out, I called my parents, and we live about a half-hour drive from this particular supermarket, and had to explain what happened, while my girlfriend was ranting about how clumsy I am. Guess she's not wrong. My parents and I had to tape the car up, and I think it's holding up all right. My dad has done this plenty of times before, so his car already had tape in it for this kind of situation. I'm unemployed since it's almost impossible to get work where I live, so looks like I'll be trying a bit harder to find a job now. TLDR. I parked on a wonky angle, stubbornly left it, hit a pillar in the car park, and half of the bumper fell off. Don't repeat my mistake. Story 8. TIFU by saying I have a dad. I didn't fuck up today, but I have to share this here. Me and a couple of friends were doing an activity everyone is taught by their parents, and more specifically dads. Let's say, fishing. But it wasn't that. One of the guys tried to give me advice about something very simple, and somehow I felt this urge to give credit to my dad. I don't know what got into me, but I said jokingly, "Yeah, I have a dad to teach me. Thank you, tears of joy." Which is already rude, but we were kinda competing too, so it just came out of my mouth. I get home and I'm like, this would be really bad if he doesn't have a dad. Days go by and I keep thinking, and I'm starting to get worried I fucked up really bad. So I asked a friend, and indeed this guy has lost his dad. At least I hope he knows I didn't know, but I'm still going to hell. TLDR. I accidentally rubbed in a friend's face the fact that I have a dad and he doesn't. Story 9. TIFU by buying a new truck. This happened to me about 2 weeks ago. So I run a business and have 2 partners. Together over the last 5 years we have bought at least 15 trucks, all from the same dealership. Now something to note is that every time we buy a new truck, we always just write a check and don't deal at all with getting loans. It just works easier and saves us time that way. About a month ago I had decided I wanted a new truck, because my current one had a couple of issues and a lot of miles. I found the exact model that I wanted and sent it over to the salesman I always go through at the dealership. He found the exact color and model that I wanted and told me that he could have it to me in 2 weeks. That is typically how it goes between us. So I said thanks and just started looking forward to the day I could pick it up. The day he told me it was ready was a Thursday at about 10 a.m. But I needed to be out of town that Friday evening and through the weekend, so I asked to have it delivered that same day. He told me that he could get me the truck today, but they couldn't prepare the paperwork and accept payment until Saturday. Now this is where I totally screwed up. I reminded him of how many vehicles I have bought from him, and that we always write a check. I told him I need the truck today, or at least by Friday at 10 a.m. He said, "I'll see what I can do," and ended up delivering the truck 2 hours later saying, "Just give me your trade vehicle and take this new one. We will get it all sorted Monday. Have a good weekend." I was stoked. They basically fronted me the truck and asked for payment on Monday, almost like a test drive but without anyone with me. I asked where the temporary registration tag was that normally comes on new vehicles after purchase, and he told me, "Dude, you haven't even bought it yet. We don't have any paperwork done for it. It's still registered to us. You're good to just throw your old plates on it." I hadn't ever been in this exact scenario before, so I just said, "Okay, not like anyone is really gonna look into it anyway." And that was that. I had just successfully received my new truck. Next day, Friday, I was driving through town like any other day running errands. I had a cop pull up behind me at a red light and thought nothing of it. As the light turned green, he turned on his lights and pulled me over. It didn't even register to me that anything was out of the ordinary, but when I pulled over, the cop shouted over his loudspeaker, "Shut off the vehicle! Put your hands where I can see them." I was so panicked that I just did what he said, still wondering what was going on, and then it hit me. My plates are registered to another truck and I don't have any registration. He thinks I am in a stolen vehicle. I decided, at a split second that there was probably too many weird things for me to be able to just explain to the officer what the actual situation was, and I just decided to remain silent. He pulled me out, checked my ID, handcuffed me, and then actually was kind of chill, or at least pretended to be, and asked me what the deal was and why this truck was registered to someone who was not me, my business partner, and why it was not even registered to this truck. I told him I would remain silent, and he arrested me for grand theft auto, a felony. Actually shaking and pretty damn scared even though I knew I didn't steal anything. He took me to jail, and luckily I lived in a fairly small town, so there were only 3 other people in the holding cell with me, and we were told we would get to see the judge that same day. I was allowed to make 2 phone calls. The first I made to my buddy and next-door neighbor LOL, the ex-prosecuting attorney for the city. I'm so grateful that I know that guy and that he is awesome. I asked him to please come to the jail and if he would represent me, and told him that I was arrested. I told him I would explain it all and it should hopefully go easy for him. I said, "If you save me right now, I will pay whatever fee you want." He just said back, "For sure, I'm actually in a city building right now. I will just walk over and let's talk." Super casual. The next call went straight to my business partner. Now, when he picked up, I shakily said, "Get the dealership salesman on the phone right now. I need an email saying that I lawfully possess the new truck I just got. I got arrested for grand theft because I didn't have a temporary tag." Practically yelling. He said he would have it to me shortly, and that he would be there in 10 minutes. I then had to go back to the holding cell to wait to be called back out. I had to wait for an excruciating hour to be called back out to meet with my attorney. I basically word vomited for like 5 minutes. As soon as I explained the whole thing to him, he sat back and thought for a second. Then he said, "Okay, hang tight. As soon as they call you into the courtroom here in a few minutes, I will have an opportunity to speak with the prosecuting attorney to discuss your charges, and then they will set your bail. When I talk to the prosecutor, I will pull some strings and see if we can't get this resolved." I was panicked. I basically thought that I was going to get my bail set for a huge amount, and then I would be in there until who knew when for my trial. The 4 of us in the cell got brought into the courtroom, and my name was called first. I sat down with my buddy and the prosecutor, and we went through it all. I didn't say a word, except to get my partner's email showing that the dealer said it was my truck. After a little bit of talking, the prosecutor looked at me and said, "Really seems like an unfortunate situation. You're lucky that you know Shane. He's a great man, and I respect him deeply. This probably should have just been a ticket, but here's what I'm willing to do for you. I will turn this into a non-moving correctable violation, and in 30 days, you will have to meet me here again and show your registration. Then the whole thing will go away." The felony was dropped. I was so relieved I almost cried. IDK. If my buddy pulled some special strings, or if this was how this was supposed to work, because none of the other guys had attorneys with them. But I don't care. I'm just glad that I didn't have to stay in jail. Afterward, I had to pick up my truck from the impound lot, and Shane tried not to let me pay him. Instead, we compromised that I would take him and his wife to the best restaurant in town. I feel like I owe that guy steak dinners for a long time, lol. I also realized that I do not want to go back to jail. It was only like 6 hours. I'm soft, lol. TLDR. I bought a new truck and ended up going to jail for half a day. Story 10. TIFU by trying to make kvass. The story starts 6 days ago, where in a drunken state I got my hand on some stale bread and the internet. I decided like any good Balkan to make kvass. I have never tried to make kvass before, and in my buzzed phase I didn't bother looking too much at ingredients, and God only knows what was inside that unholy abomination. I put it inside a bottle of empty vodka and sealed it away in cabinet to hide its shame from the rest of the world. I forget about it for 5.5 days. I decided to open that cabinet again, since that's where the new sponges reside. When my eyes glazed on that bottle, its color almost like a yellow lemonade left in the sun, I picked it up and hell followed. Room dark. Nummy 3 dogs who like sheep to the slaughter followed me in the kitchen, run like their life depended on it, tripping amongst themselves to the bathroom. Life soldiers in the trenches. I wasn't lucky enough, as soon enough the tsunami after the earthquake hit, and a combination of 6-day-old bread, yeast, and water started pouring like champagne, completely covering me and whole kitchen. When I say whole, I mean from floor to ceiling, from cupboards to the sink. I left out a scream that only a man who knew death had come for him would. Glass from the light bulbs fell on my head, and I jumped back only for the slippery floor of yeast to take me and embrace me in the hug of my now dirty floors. I sat there in the dark, lying down for 5 minutes, trying not to laugh and figure out where my life went wrong. TLDR. That yeast, left inside a tight sealed bottle, is enough to create a bang, loud enough to be considered worthy a nuclear explosion. Story 11. TIFU. By overlooking one character on an edible package. Obligatory. This was actually a month ago, right after Thanksgiving Day in the US. Also, throwaway account, because this is super embarrassing and I don't want it to be tracked back to my main. My wife, F46, and I, M48, We're visiting family out of state for Thanksgiving. After the holiday, we traveled north to visit one of our kids, F21, who had just moved to the area for her first professional job since graduating. We arrived while she was still at work and planned on exploring the town while waiting for her to be ready to join us for dinner. We came across a weed shop. It's recreationally legal in this state, and decided to pop in. A little backstory here. My wife grew up in a very liberal family. Parents were at Woodstock kind of liberal. They were not shy about providing a safe space for their kids and their kids' friends, experimenting with weed, acid, mushrooms, etc. I, on the other hand, grew up in a very sheltered household as far as drinking and drugs went. My mom never jokes in front of us as kids. I can only remember my dad having a beer in front of me once, and there was never even any talk about drugs. I didn't have my first sip of alcohol until I was almost 30, and it's only in the last year that I asked my wife to shepherd me into the world of THC/CBD. It's medically legal where we both live, and we have cards. All of this to say, my wife is very experienced, and I am not. So we enter this shop. It's spacious and clean, and has a little bit of everything. We ask the clerk to show us some edibles. He looks confused and asks what we mean. You know, edibles, like gummies, etc. He says, "Oh, okay," and explains he actually just moved here from overseas to help his brother run this shop, and he's never heard that term before. He also says he's not a native English speaker. No worries, we figure maybe it's also a regional difference. We say edible, you say gummies? Again. Anyway, he points us to a glass display case with a lot of things in it. Pre-rolls, loose leaf, gummies, dabs, mushrooms, etc. It's a bit overwhelming to look through. While we're browsing, he asks us if we want to try some vapes. They have these pen condoms, so sure, why not? We take a hit of 3 different sample vapes while looking through the case. We end up buying 2 vape pens and 1 package of 2 8mg grape edibles. Since we already had the 3 hits from the sample pens, we decided to save everything else for later in the weekend. The next day, we spend all day with our daughter, shopping for things to help decorate her first apartment. Around 5 p.m., she decides she needs a break and wants to call her girlfriend, so my wife and I decide we'll give her space for a couple of hours and head out on our own to explore the city until 7. The town is doing a Christmas tree lighting ceremony in the town square, and the shops are supposed to be open late as a result, so we should have plenty to keep us busy. This seems like a good time to take the edibles. 8 milligrams is a typical dose for us, and will give us just a little buzz while we walk around. About 45 minutes into exploring is when I first start feeling the buzz. In an oddities market, no less, surrounded by weird taxidermy, old medical photos, etc. We decide to get some food and choose this old-looking diner we saw earlier that looked like it would either be a hidden gem of a place or just a place that's always been there. It was the latter, filled with older locals talking about local politics and trading in neighborly gossip. They kept coming and going, swapping tables with each other to form new groups, townies being townies. It was quaint and fun to observe. The food itself was nothing to go back for, and the coffee was terrible, but it was cheap. And it was fast. I'm pretty sure the only reason they could sustain those prices is because the ancient couple working the counter were the original owners, and it was a symbiotic relationship between business and proprietors, each continuing to exist only because of the existence of the other. I'm waxing poetic here, but these are the thoughts swirling through my head as we finish our meal. I was pretty sure my high was peaking in that moment. Usually there's a fast drop-off for me at that point, but now time is starting to slow down, and the conversation is sort of throbbing in my ears, and I keep getting surprised by the couple in the car outside who are staring at we, only to realize it's just our own reflection in the shop window that happens to line up perfectly with the windows of a car parked out front. My wife is getting antsy. She likes to walk when stoned, and I can see on her face that she's ready to leave the restaurant. I too have thought about leaving. However, I tell her I'm going to need a few more minutes because my legs don't seem to work, and I'm pretty sure if I try to leave the booth, I'll just fall over. I've tried moving them a couple of times, and they're like dead weight. So we sit there some more, and my mind is kind of blank, and I'm just listening to the conversations going on around us, but they're all swirling together, and it's hard to focus on anyone. I realize at this point that I am really high. I've been that high only once before, when we took 15 milligrams instead of our usual 5 to 10 milligrams. That had been a wild ride of wave after wave, coincidentally while we were at the beach, and I really wanted to get off that roller coaster after the first few peaks. But it kept going for a couple of hours, so I wasn't looking forward to riding this out yet again. Probably thinking at this point, oh, so the character he missed was probably a 1, and he took 18 milligrams instead of 8. You'd be wrong. My wife now realizes the state I'm in and is trying to talk to me through it, as the wise that she is. While she's waiting me out, she decides to double-check the package, because this is clearly not what we expected. 8 milligrams, check. THC, Check. Wait, why is there a P after the THC? She Googles what the P in THCP means. It stands for pherol, as in tetrahydrocannabinol, a synthesized form of THC that is 33 times stronger than regular THC. It is legal in most states and is typically not regulated. Doing the math, my wife realizes that we have both taken the equivalent of 264 milligrams of THC. Yikes. Yikes emoji. Soon after reading this is when it catches up to her. And now I'm trying to talk her through it, existing roughly 15 minutes in her future, as best as I can given the circumstances. Y'all, I wish this was the worst of it, but we're just getting started. We're both in the thick of it. My wife manages to tap out a text message to our daughter that we're in a bit of trouble, and could she please come get us? I'm sitting there staring into space. The restaurant has gone quiet for me. None of the conversational din is making its way through anymore. I occasionally think to test my legs out to see if they'll move, but so far they still feel numb. My wife is starting to overheat. She can't figure out how to get out of her jacket, so she tries taking off her shoes. This is not going well. She ends up lying down on the bench trying to kick her shoes off. Tummy. Come to think of it, I'm hot too, but there's no way I'm attempting to move. A woman at the table next to us leans over and asks apologetically, "I'm sorry, I couldn't help but notice. Is your wife all right?" I try to say, "She's not feeling well." Now, I think that's what comes out. It seems to appease the woman, who goes back to her meal. We've drank all the water we had at the table, which is good because my wife now reaches for one of the cups and vomits in it. I'm panicking internally because there's no way I can be of any help cleaning this up once it overflows. Somehow, I kid you not, she fills the one cup to the brim, stops, grabs the other cup, and starts again. I have two thoughts. That's big. Why is no one saying anything? That's really big. I'll hold this napkin up in front of the two cups to shield the other customers from the sight of two vomit-filled clear plastic cups. And this is how our daughter finds us. Me holding a napkin in front of two cups of puke and my wife with her head on the bench and shoes halfway off. "Is that?" she asks, eyeballing the cups. I manage a nod. She quietly disposes of the two cups. I don't know where or how, and asks the staff for a glass of water. "Oh, you're with them," they say. She will later tell us. She tells us it's time to go. My legs still feel numb, but like they might work if given no other option. So we follow her back to the apartment a couple of blocks away, like two big stone ducks following a baby duckling. I remember being fascinated with stairs and air. My wife had her long-sleeve shirt on over her jacket and was very excited about everything. The next few time units are a blur. I know I end up in my daughter's bathroom, but I have no idea for how long. All I can do is prop myself up on the sink counter. I wonder if this is what mental illness feels like, and if I'm stuck here now. I keep moving my legs up and down to make sure they work. There's a lot of vomiting and sweating. My wife has collapsed on the spare mattress in the bedroom that our daughter had set for us. Eventually, I emerge and make it as far as the hallway between the bathroom and living room and decide that's the best place for me to be, so I lie down there. I'm whimpering about how this can't be real life, and I'm worried that we're being filmed and will be all over the internet the next day. Our daughter has had enough of this and decides to go for a walk. I remember her stepping around me in the hallway on her way out. It's hilarious and tragic. I crawl to the couch next to the mattress. Neither of us can sleep. At some point, my wife gets up and vomits in the bathroom, brushes her teeth, and comes back to bed. She thinks an Altoid might help. I hear the crinkling of the cellophane and think it's a rat come to chew her face off, so I jump off the couch and start blindly smacking the floor with a shoe. She manages to convince me it's not a rat. I crawl back to the couch and pass out. The next morning is hell. We are supposed to go to a high school reunion that night, but we can barely function. We finally are up for leaving the house around noon. I'm absolutely paranoid that the townies from the diner will spot us and we'll be run out of town. I can't believe we aren't in jail. I can't believe only one person said anything to us that entire time in the dinner, especially after the vomit incident. How did no one notice? How were we not front page news? My wife has a photo of me from that afternoon, sitting at a booth waiting for food. At an entirely different restaurant, of course. And I don't think I've ever seen myself looking so haggard. We eventually make our way back to my parents' house, skipping the reunion entirely. We fly home the next day, but our weed hangover brain fog lasts for days. TLDR. We accidentally bought THCP edibles thinking they were THC. THCP is 33x more potent. We take the equivalent of 264 milligrams of THC. We green out while in a dinner in our daughter's new hometown. Story 12. TIFU by selling fake cake. This didn't happen recently. It happened 25 years ago when I was 15 and worked in a Ben & Jerry's ice cream shop. I was fairly new in the job and had zero responsibility during a day shift other than clocking in, scooping ice cream, ringing it up, and selling it. Even the coveted easy job of making fresh waffle cones was above my rank in the shift worker hierarchy at that time. So suffice to say, with such little responsibility, I had received little training. Now, usually I would have coworkers with me and a shift manager on duty. However, on weekdays during the winter when I was working after school, business was so slow that it was typically just me and a lower-ranked shift manager. On one such slow day, the shift manager slipped out for a late lunch and left me alone for 30 minutes. Soon after they left, a panicked middle-aged man strode into the store saying that he needed to get an ice cream cake. I explained that I hadn't done one before and that my manager would be back soon and that he would need to wait. I also explained that we usually took those orders in advance because after a cake was made, they needed to sit for a day in the deep freeze to set. He was really adamant that he needed one to write that minute, and couldn't I just make one for him? I didn't need to set it. I again explained that I didn't know how, and that he'd need to wait until the manager got back. Then he pointed to the ice cream cake in the display freezer and asked if he could buy that. I paused and said, well, it's probably freezer burned at this point. I don't think that I should, nor do I think that you'd want it. He insisted that he didn't care. He needed it now and would pay me an extra $20 on top of the price to let him have it. Now, I was making $5.50 an hour, so $20 was kind of a lot of money. I caved, packed it up, and sent him on his way. About 15 minutes later, my manager came back in, but she asked me if anything of note happened while she was out, and I told her about the ice cream cake that I sold. Her eyes got really big and she shouted, "That was a styrofoam cake that we decorated! Ah!" I got chewed out a little, but didn't get fired or anything like that. We waited patiently for the man to return so that we could refund his money and apologize. But he never came back! I guess by the time he got to whatever party he'd forgotten to get a cake for, and they discovered it was made of styrofoam, everybody thought it was so funny that they just wrote it off? Or maybe his wife was so pissed at him that coming back was the last thing on his mind? Man who bought a styrofoam cake by mistake? I want to hear the rest of your story. TLDR. TIFU. By selling a forgetful dad a styrofoam ice cream cake. 13. TIFU. By not noticing a button on my headphones for 7 years. When I got my headphones back in 2017, I liked how the buttons for turning the volume up/down were separated. The design choice made sense to me. It was easy to aim for correct one. Today I began looking into newer headphones with more advanced noise cancellation. I was also interested in a cool feature I've seen other people using on their earbuds. The ability to pause/skip/go back with simple button presses. I figured that if this feature was available on earbuds, newer headphones must have it as well. I watched a video comparing the updated versions of my preferred brand, and I noticed a multi-function button placed between the volume buttons on the lower-end model. It struck me that this setup looked similar to my current headphones, which I proceeded to take off and examine closely. With a sinking heart, I replaced my headphones and pressed the space between the volume buttons. The comparison video began to play. I pressed the space twice, and it skipped to the next video. The power was mine all along. For 7 years, I grabbed my phone to navigate audiobooks and podcasts, not realizing that the buffer space on my headphones was actually a button itself. TLDR. It took me 7 years to notice that my headphones had a multi-function button for playing/pausing/skipping. Story 14. TIFU. By assuming a girl lived with her parents, only to be very much wrong. So today I was talking to a girl, T, and she was talking about how she wasn't sure if she had to clean her whole house or just part of it. The conversation is as follows. T. I have no idea if I'm supposed to clean this or not, and my brother isn't home for me to ask him. Me. What about your parents? Don't they help you clean and tell you stuff? T. I don't have them. Me. In a surprised tone that could have sounded rude, but I didn't think it did. What do you mean you don't have them? Everyone has parents of some sort. T. Well, my dad died, and my mom lives in. Insert state name. Awkward silence followed by me. Oh, I'm so sorry for assuming. Her tone when I said this was very, almost annoyed, and also like she thought I should know by now, which I should. TLDR. I assumed my friend lived with her parents, then acted perplexed by her explanation, only to find out one of them was dead. Story 15. TIFU. By telling my cousin Santa isn't real. This didn't really happen today, but around 17 years ago, when I, 22F, was 5 years old, and my family was spending Christmas at my grandparents' house. Now, my sister, 7 at the time, my cousin, also 7, and me were playing a board game in the living room late at night on the 24th. My cousin had his back to the Christmas tree, whereas I had it in front of me. My aunt, cousin's mother, figured that Santa's presents had to magically appear under the tree at 12 a.m., so she decided her best bet was to sneak behind the couch and put my cousin's present under the tree right in front of me. I obviously saw her because I was a kid, not blind, and she just stared back at me doing this shushing face. Minutes later, my cousin saw his present and was like, "Santa came!" And I guess that's when I told him that I saw his mom put it under the tree. Because I don't actually remember telling him, but I do remember that my sister scolded me for telling him after my aunt told me not to. And the funniest part is, me and my sister still believed in Santa for many more years. Because as my sister scolded me, she explained that since we are Mexican and live in the north bordering with the U.S., we share a lot of traditions with the U.S., and Santa did deliver presents to the kids in the north. But Santa didn't deliver presents to the south because that was not his jurisdiction. But the three Magi's, therefore my aunt had to be Santa, otherwise my cousin wouldn't get any presents from him, only from the three Magi. Years later, we had a good laugh about our kid logic and how we jumped through hoops to explain that Santa was indeed real, but wouldn't deliver presents to my cousin. And my sister laughs at her innocence in scolding me when I had done no wrong because I was just a kid. Then, I found out my mom was absolutely livid that day and wanted to kill my aunt for deliberately choosing to put the presents under the tree in front of her 5-year-old daughter to not ruin her own son's illusion. It absolutely backfired, and I do not feel sorry for either of them. Who does that? TLDR. When I was 5, I saw my aunt put my cousin's presents under the tree and told him his mom was Santa, and I continued to believe in Santa for years to come while he didn't. Teen. TIFU by trolling my friend. So yesterday was New Year's Eve, and IF got invited to my friend's, let's call her Luna, party. I was joking with my online friends, and one of them, let's call him Jack, wanted to go, but wasn't invited. In order to troll him, I told him that Luna invited another of our friends, Tom, and I was pretending that I was with Tom on Luna's Perry, and typing all of these messages in a group chat with Jack, Tom, and some other friends. Tom was in on the prank, and he also decided to troll Jack that there was alcohol involved and that Tom and I were drunk. Jack is a very gullible person, so somehow he believed us. Now, I have to preface by saying my mom hates Luna. She thinks she's a bad influence and doesn't want me hanging around her. She was very reluctant, but eventually she let me go to her party. Suddenly, during the party, I get a text from my mom saying she's disappointed in me, and she never thought I would underage drink and hang out with older boys. My immediate reaction was like WTF, because there were only girls at Luna's party. It was more like a sleepover, and there was no alcohol. Even Luna's parents were at home. In the group chat I mentioned earlier, there is one of my close friends, whose mom is, gently speaking, a psycho. She checks her daughter's messages, sometimes not telling her about it. What I think happened, she told my mom of those messages, and my mom didn't catch on they were a joke. So now I'm dreading coming home, because it will take a lot of convincing to make my mom understand those were jokes. TLDR. I trolled my friend in a group chat that I was drinking alcohol at a party. My mom somehow saw these messages, and I am in big trouble. Story 17. TIFU by jumping my car wrong. We bought our Toyota RAV4 new off the lot in 2007, and it was such a great car. Aside from a few recalls and routine maintenance, it never gave us any trouble, and we put over 228,000 miles on it. Well, life went on, and we finally upgraded to a new model this summer, and the old girl was just sitting around not being used much. So we decided to sell it. The battery had died from sitting, so I went to jump it. Normally, I am very careful when jumping a car because the voltages and current involved is kinda scary, plus the non-zero chance that the battery leaks or explodes. But because I'm a fuck-up, I accidentally connected the poles of the batteries backwards. In less than a second, the horn on the old car started going off, but it didn't register what was happening. It was connected about 5 seconds this way before I disconnected it. Then I reversed the jumper cables and tried again. Now the old car is completely dead. I looked it up, and Google says that doing this can cause major damage. So I think I just killed our old car. We were hoping to sell it for around $3,000, and that value is just gone now. Damn. TLDR. I hooked up jumper cables backward and fried my old car's electrical system. Story 18. TIFU by looking for some band-aids. I cut my finger over the weekend. I work as a nanny. The bandage I had on when I came into work didn't last long. I went to look for some in one of the bathrooms. I checked the drawers. No band-aids. Well, lucky me. I see another panel that's identical to the other drawers that's directly under the sink instead of off to the side. I'll check there, maybe I'll find some. Nope, the whole thing popped off. So now I'm standing in the bathroom with the not drawer wooden panel in hand. Fortunately, my nanny kid can't crawl yet, so I tucked it out of the way to make sure it won't hurt anyone. Both parents of the child I nanny were in meetings. They're work from home and have a strict no interruptions unless it's an emergency rule. So I didn't tell them right away. Well, mom boss ended her meeting and bolted to the bathroom before I had a chance to tell her. She thought it was hilarious. Dad boss thought it was hilarious. They got me some band-aids from a different bathroom. TLDR. While looking for band-aids at work, I tried to open what I thought was a drawer, but ended up ripping off part of the cabinet under the sink. Everyone got a good laugh out of it. 19. TIFU. By almost getting my bank account frozen. Ah yes, fucking up on January 1st. Here we go. Just now I wanted to transfer my salary from my work bank ACC to my personal account. This is the first time I'm doing it with this bank, so I didn't know how it'd go. Near the end of the transaction it was put on hold. I got a bit annoyed. Tens later, a number called with an unconventional phone prefix. My country uses phone numbers prefix like 010 to 019, this one uses 03. I thought bro is a scammer / telemarketers. So what the fuck I did? I picked up the call and said, fuck you and your ancestors. Why? In my language, then hang the call thinking I wasted some scammers' time. Bish called again and again, so I picked up, asked what do you want? Hi, I'm calling over to confirm your transaction of 2 *****. Over to an account, may I please have your last 4 IC digits? Upside down face. Did all the procedure, luckily the bank operator was professional, despite the shit I did, I apologized and he accepted. Funds went over but the bank account remains blocked. Now I have to go to the bank branch, TMR, to unblock the bank account. TLDR. Cursed at a bank operator thinking he's a scammer, got my shit blocked for suspicious activity, now I have to go to the bank, TMR, to unblock it. Story 20. TIFU. By checking out a lady. So, background. I told dad that mom cheated when I was 17, they split, she's a mess, dad's being a good dad to me and my 2 younger brothers. I, 27F, was with my grandfather, 73M, eating lunch. A lady walked by. She was wearing skinny jeans and a sweater. Also heels, like 4-inch heels, and I'm like, OMG. Daddy scoffed. I asked, what's up? My mind went to, maybe his order was wrong. He's like, nothing. I'm like, okay, and took his word for it. I saw another lady wearing open-toed heels, and I'm thinking about how water will get her feet wet. Dad just dropped his fork and stared at me. I'm like, what? Bah? You should control yourself. You don't see me having sex with every woman I see. So, I'm openly bisexual. I'm also demisexual, on the asexual scale. I rolled my eyes and just ate. He can stew in his emotions alone. I mentioned it to Dad, Papa's ex-son-in-law. He's like, probably just jealous because he has Ed. I'm like, dumbass, and forgot about it for a bit. Grandma's been walking a lot. I walk with her every now and then. Before she left, I heard her and Papa yelling. I was wearing headphones, so I didn't know about what. So when she got ready to walk, I was like, maybe I should join. She was crying, and I asked what happened. I hate him. Makes me feel like I'm not good enough. I asked her how. She talked about how he used to cheat on her with thinner and prettier women. She's about 5 feet and 190 pounds. We've been monitoring her weight because she's on dialysis and diabetic. I told Dad, and he's like confused. I'm like, what? May? He goes, she used to cheat on him. He told me that my mom found condoms in grandma's because a couple times growing up, and would always get shouted at for finding them. We basically pieced together that they'd cheat on each other. Mom and my 2 aunts knew about it, and now they're probably feeling guilty now that they're old and not in the best health. We always wondered why the hell did Mom always accuse Dad of cheating when he was working. He's a parole officer, so mainly works with men. Always check his emails and phone. Always ask me, as a child, if we actually went to places he said we'd go. She grew up with parents cheating on each other. We still don't like Mom because after the separation, she dropped me and the boys, who were 11 at the time, never paid child support. When she'd see me and the boys, it'd end with her yelling at Dad for not giving her money, and stole the phone I gave to Dad. I almost died by suicide at 18, and she didn't tell Dad I was in the hospital. She's chosen a random man over me. Will likely be a different post in the future, sorry. I don't want to get into it right now. I still don't like the grandparents because they don't like me. I love them, I guess, but we're just different people. They know I'm allergic to cumin, but will still cook tacos in the house, making me break out in hives and feeling nauseous. Told me to buy my own and pay for my own stuff when I was 20 and fucking love eating my food. Grandma used to steal my money before I decided to never carry cash or coins again. Papa will excuse my mom's behavior and won't even try to talk to her about going sober since she's her own person. He will never stand up for me against Grandma, who wants my rapist cousin to visit. I'm a firm believer by trying not to be the bad guy, you become the worst guy. I at least know a smidge more of grandparents, moms, and aunts' childhoods. TLDR. By me checking out heels, Dad and I found out that grandparents are worse than we thought. Story 21. TIFU. By calling my wife a big fat mochi. So this happened last night, and I accidentally walked into the marital equivalent of a minefield. My wife and I were in a cuddly mood. PSA. Cuddle with your wives more. They love it. She was being her adorable, giggly self, and I was reveling in the softness of her body. I always loved how soft and squishy her skin felt, so much so that I would lovingly call my mochi. You know, the soft Japanese rice cake that's absurdly good, especially as ice cream. Highly recommend. Now, some context. My wife is a little self-conscious about her looks and weight. She's not obese. Far from it. But like many women, she's more invested in her physical appearance than I am. Tale as old as time, right? So there I was, feeling all the love, squishing, squeezing, and naming on her in that goofy way we do, when I suddenly blurted out, "You're my big fat mochi." Yep, big fat makey. The second the words left my mouth, I knew it was over. "Big fat?" she yells, her jaw dropping like I'd just confessed to microwaving a cat. I died a little inside and was absolutely speechless. By the almighty grace of God, she found the absurdity of the phrase so hilarious that it turned into a mix of laughter and mock outrage. One minute she was in a laughing fit, and the next, she was playfully glaring at me like I'd just stole her last lychee jelly from her boba tea. I'm usually super careful in being encouraging and supportive whenever she doesn't feel good about how she looks. But, well, happens to the best of us, I suppose. When I tried apologizing, my brain apparently decided I hadn't goofed up enough for one night. Instead of saying that it was a Freudian slip, I confidently declared it was a fruition slip. English isn't my native language. Cue to her cracking up again, but this time she goes, "What, are you gay now?" Not missing a beat, I hit her back with, "I'm gay for you." And then it was just laughing and teasing all over again. I guess that's another thing she can hold over me in the future. TLDR. Always double-check the adjectives you pair with food metaphors, especially when they involve your wife. Otherwise, you will end up calling your wife a big fat mochi. Story 22. TIFU. Customer's child found my butt plug in my gym bag. I thought you would enjoy this embarrassing story that actually took place in the 1993 era. I had just started dating a pretty girl, now my wife, and she was on the wild side sexually. To be honest, I wasn't sure what she was into, so I ventured to find out. One day, I went to a local adult sex shop and bought a sort of sex starters kit. Inside the box, it had a vibrator, dildo, assorted oils, and a pinkish tan butt plug. I put all of it in my gym bag and brought it to work the next day, and hoped to bring it to my girlfriend's house later that evening and try some of them out. I always bring the gym bag to work because I hold my lunch, keys, wallet, workout gear, and pretty much anything else I might need for the day. I put the bag under my desk at the front of the store, tucked away from customers' view, just like always. I was working alone this day, and a woman in her early 30s came into the store with her child, a boy around 3 years old. She said she was buying her first mattress set, so I showed her a few different models as she ran around the store like a wild man. Occasionally, she would call out to him to make sure he was okay. "Justin, come over here, where are you?" Our store was fairly large, and the mattress sets were organized in neat rows, sort of like a hay bale maze. We would see Justin's little head pop up behind one mattress, only to duck down and pop back up behind another one moments later. He was having a blast. After a short while, the woman decided on a twin mattress set, and I told her I would grab it from the back warehouse and put it in the bed of her truck. After she paid, she sat there and waited at my desk as I pulled the product, and her continued to run around the store. When I came out of the back, she went to the front door to hold it open for me, and I then placed the mattress and box spring in her truck. All done, right? I wish! Walking back towards the store, I saw the woman walking around inside and looking for her son, but he was nowhere to be found. "Justin, where are you?" she called out loudly. That's when I noticed him behind my desk, and he was happily looking through my gym bag. At first, it didn't bother me until I saw him pull out the butt plug, and then he started to walk away with it in his hand. I yelled out to him in a panic, "Justin, no!" But it was too late, and he stuck in his mouth like a pacifier. His mom turned around and saw him, and started chasing him around the mattresses, not understanding what he had found. Let me tell you, that kid was fast, and was laughing like a maniac as he ran around the store with a pink butt plug hanging out of his mouth. I stood there stunned and watched the scene unfold like it was happening in slow motion. Eventually, his mom caught the little guy and pulled it out of his mouth before handing it to me. I remember her arm was completely extended and holding the butt plug like she had just caught a mouse by the tail. She looked at me directly in the eyes and said in a stern voice, "Please tell me, That thing was clean. It was at that moment that I understood that she definitely knew what it was. I responded quickly and said that it was brand new and unused, at which point she let out a big sign of relief. She started to walk away before she turned to me and asked, "Can I ask you a question? Why do you have that thing here with you at work?" My answer came to me in a flash, and I am still proud of it to this day. I simply looked at her and said, "Well, sometimes the store is slow and I get bored." She chuckled, turned, and then got in her car and left. A week or so later, she called the store and we talked about it in detail, and we both got a laugh out of it. Thank you. TLDR. Brought a butt plug to work in my gym bag, but a customer's child found it and ran around the store with it in his mouth before the mom grabbed it from him and confronted me about it. Story 23. TIFU. By building a tool to remind me of my own thoughts. Like many people, I jot down random notes, ideas, to-dos, thoughts that feel profound at 2 a.m. The problem? Now, I never actually look at them again. So instead of just making an effort to revisit my notes manually, I did what any overthinking tech person would. I built a tool. The tool sends me one random note from my archives every day. Simple, right? At first it was great. One day I got, "Remember to prioritize what really matters." Inspiring. But then it hit me with, "What if birds are government spies?" And I realized my past self is an enigma. Now, my inbox is full of a mix of wisdom and weirdness, and my friends think I've officially lost it for emailing myself. Did I mess up by automating something so personal? Maybe. But hey, at least my mornings are never boring anymore. TLDR. Built a tool to email me my own notes. Thought it would help. Now I'm laughing at past me while explaining this tool to confused friends. Story 24. TIFU. By calling my kids special in a derogatory way. Today I was dropping my boys off with another parent to hang out with her kids. My boys did something stupid, and I laughed and said, "Sorry, they're special." Typically, I wouldn't think much of this. But this particular parent is a special ed teacher, so as soon as it came out of my mouth, I was kicking myself, knowing it was probably offensive to her, given her line of work. She replied, "They're just kids." I stumbled my way through the rest of the conversation and then drove home feeling like a huge jerk. I don't know if I should address it and apologize or just pretend like it never happened. Maybe I shouldn't bring any more attention to it. I don't know. I just feel like this is one of those things that's going to keep me up at night. Talk about putting your foot in your mouth. Ugh. I also felt bad about saying it in the first place, regardless of who was present. I should start speaking about them more positively, even if I'm just joking around. Live. Lots of lessons learned. TLDR, TIFU. By jokingly calling my kids special in front of a special ed teacher. Story 25. TIFU. By eating wedding cake that was definitely not for me. This didn't happen today. It happened when I was 8 20-ish years ago, and happened over the course of a few weeks, give or take. From 8. So when I was 8, my cousin got married. In my culture, you don't serve the wedding cake to the guests. Instead, the tiers are given out to the bride's family, groom's family, and one special tier. I came to find out that the special tier was for a small ceremony after the first 100 days of the wedding. How cake is meant to last that long without going bad, I truly do not know to this day. Anyway, a few weeks after the wedding, I found the cake in my aunt's bedroom. Groom's mom. Also, weird place to keep a cake. My sweet tooth instincts recognized the box right away. And lo and behold, it was cake. I resisted for a few hours, honestly, but the cake kept calling me, so I took a bite out of it like a heathen. That left me with a problem. They'll know someone ate the cake. I came up with an excellent plan. Turn the cake so the bitten out part is not facing direct field of vision. Over the course of the 100 days, I took strategic bites, remember I was 8, out of the cake and eventually reduced it to crumbs and icing. I have a feeling I wasn't the only one sampling the contraband, but I have no proof. By the time the 100-day anniversary came around, there was not much of the cake. The ceremony day came, and who does my aunt send to get the cake? You guessed it, me, along with my sister. Now I know there's no cake in that box, but I get up and go looking for it. I even innocently ask, where is the cake? Making my aunt describe in more detail than is necessary the location of the box of crumbs. Yep, the box was lighter than expected, and my sister opened the box. No cake, just crumbs and icing. My sister's eyes went wide and panic set in. She picked up the box and carried it to the living room to show everyone. At that point, the only upside was that the only people in this ceremony were immediate family members. To cut this short, everyone was shocked. Rats were somehow blamed. They didn't eat the box, though. They had to get store-bought cake. I still don't fully understand the role of the cake, but what do I know? I finally admitted to the bride this past Xmas. And she wasn't as mad as Shu could have been. She did vow to eat my wedding cake or have her kid do it when the time came. Lesson: never eat cake you know, no matter how delicious it looks. TL/DR. I ate my cousin's wedding cake and pinned it on the rats even though we didn't have any. Story 26. TIFU. By losing my passion for music. I am a freshman in college now, and in high school, toward the end of junior year, I decided I would love to learn a new instrument. I'd played trumpet since 5th grade, and was very into music, band, and everything surrounding it. I loved, and still do love, the sound of the saxophone, so I decided to keep playing trumpet for band, but learn alto sax on the side in my free time. I was extremely excited and rented a saxophone from a local shop for a few months, took private lessons, researched new mouthpieces and ligatures. I tried everything and was very passionate about my new hobby. I would bring it to school and sit in a practice room during my off periods and practice. I spent all of my time on this. Flash forward to now. I've just finished my first semester in college and have met people and done things that I have never thought about before. I really got into rock climbing and snowboarding. I also spent a lot of time at the gym. My life took a 180, where I used to like sitting and focusing on a hobby that wouldn't require me to be all too active, whereas now I love getting up and doing stuff and can't find myself sitting around too long. This is all great. I'm active and social and having a blast at college, except earlier this year I bought myself a saxophone so that I wouldn't have to rent one anymore. It was around March, and I spent my savings from a few years to get a really nice quality horn. I settled on a Yamaha YAS 62i, which, to save you a Google search, costs in the realm of $4,000, little more or less depending. I even splurged and got the dark amber lacquer for an extra cost. So now I have lost most of my passion for playing and performing music, but am stuck with a professional quality instrument. My consciousness won't let me sell it, but I feel no passion for saxophone anymore and gain no pleasure from forcing myself to practice. TLDR. I bought a new high-quality saxophone before coming to college, but upon trying new activities here, I can't find passion for sitting down and playing saxophone anymore. 27. TIFU, and got fired from my job. I, 18F, has been working at my part-time job at a government-run amusement park for the past year. I believe I've been a great worker, I'm responsible and serious, and have rarely had any negative talks with my supervisor. I believe I've always put in my best work, and I've been a good asset to the team. My job hosts very regular training sessions, since we do different things in the amusement park for every season. E.g., fall, we become a haunted park, and winter, we are a skating rink. I've noticed this from the start. The job would never indicate if the training was online or in person. The first few trainings we got emails telling us if it was in person or online, but afterwards I've just been reaching out to my supervisor, asking if the training would be online or in person. From this, I've caught the pattern that 2 to 3 hour trainings are always hosted online, and I've only had in-person trainings that are a minimum above 5 hours, since it's a hassle to open the park and get all our safety inspectors and supervisors in for a 2-hour training session. Winter season rolls around and training starts again. Since I've worked there for a year, I didn't think it was necessary to email my supervisor and confirm, fucked up, and proceeded to fuck up more by not setting an alarm for training. I always have emails with sound notification on, so I assumed once they send me an email, I can just join it, and hence don't need an alarm. Well, I got distracted with a ton of homework and didn't think too much about the training. I just waited for my email and eventually forgot about it. That email never came, since the training was in person. The next day I woke up to all my shifts canceled and an email from my boss that said I was fired. I was very caught off guard because I went from having a stable job to losing it in one night. I regret it so much. It sucks because I know there's another training time they could have scheduled me for. We always host 2 of every trainings due to time conflicts for some, and allow our employees to choose the date we prefer. I'm sad to be fired so suddenly after putting in a year of hard work. I've never made mistakes at my job, and making such a big mistake is really killing me. To make things worse, it's Christmas, and I was counting on my income this month to buy gifts for family. Sigh. TLDR. TIFU. By missing a 2-hour training from my job, which I thought was online because of past experience. Completely wrong, got fired within the day and now is shocked and in regret for not confirming beforehand. Story 28. TIFU. By making my GF thinks that I am cheating. So today in the morning we woke up. I had gone to brush my teeth and left my phone with her. While I brushed my teeth came that urge to make number 2, and we always do that with our cell phones, so I left in a hurry to pick up my phone, and when I came back she was already looking through my messages. So here comes the deal. Recently in my new job, I have to send messages to this coworker because I need her to send requisitions so I can get the ingredients from stock, work in a hotel kitchen. So when I asked in a hurry for the phone, she asks about this coworker. I explained kinda fast, but she saw all the messages, it really is nothing except work, and gave me the phone. I took my number 2 while scrolling through Twitter, X. When I leave, she is mad and sad, saying it was weird. She is trusting me when I told, we all leave with phones, I am sorry, and offered my cell phones to her again, but then she said that I already could delete everything. I said that she saw my messages, then she told it could be on Instagram or other app, and now that I could have deleted, she doesn't want to see my phone again. She always had access to my phone with all passwords. After a while talking, she said, I'm okay, you can go to work. But I know how she is. She ain't talking much, that already won't spend New Year's together this year, so she already isn't happy. And now this, and just to make clear that I'm not cheating, I will answer any questions related and accept advice on how to make things light. I also offered her to use apps that track location, that let she sees my Instagram and WhatsApp, but she doesn't want any of those. TLDR. By making GF thinks I'm cheating. Story 29. TIFU. By almost blinding myself with a bottle of sparkling Japanese sake. But luckily I just graced my temple. At a year-end party this evening, I was tasked with opening a bottle of sparkling Japanese sake, which is bottled like champagne, a wire cage over a cork. I removed the wire cage and kept my thumb over the cork as a safety habit when opening champagne. But for some reason I let my thumb relax as I leaned over to see around something on the table to check whether we had enough glasses, and the cork positively exploded spontaneously, with kinetic energy 10x that of any champagne I'd ever opened. And I've opened a lot. The cork grazed my temple on the way to denting the ceiling. Holy shit, it was this close to pushing my eyeball through my skull into the ceiling. It could have been a life-changing event. Thankfully it wasn't. But fuck me, that was scary. My temple hurt for a while. But ironically enough, drinking the sake after made me forget about it. TLDR. I didn't keep proper safety procedures when opening a bottle of sparkling sake and came this close to blinding myself in one eye. Story 30. TIFU. By inadvertently exposing my GF's excuse, so she now has to swim in icy water on New Year's Day. My GF's group of friends are into open water swimming, especially in the winter. My GF has never been with them. I can't blame her at all, it sounds horrible, and I wouldn't go. However, when they've talked about going, she's always sounded really enthusiastic and very regretful that she can't go because she's working, which was always true. I semi-believed she wanted to do it. Maybe. They always do a charity swim on New Year's Day, and we are never around because we go to her mom. This year, for various reasons, her mom is coming to us. We've just been out with several of the friend group, and I heard my GF say something about going to her mom's over New Year. But I wasn't really listening, and butted in and said that she was coming to us in the afternoon. She then responded like, oh yeah, she forgot, and that works really well. Turns out, GF was using this as an excuse not to go swimming. And I've messed it up. She's mega competitive, so unlike me, she can't just say she doesn't want to do it, even though they'd probably not care at all. So unless she swallows her pride, she's going for a cold dip, which I do feel bad about. TLDR. I accidentally exposed my GF's white lie about being away, and now she's going to pay for it by swimming in icy water on New Year's Day. Story 31. TIFU. By telling my wife that paper whites smell like maxi pads. My wife likes to have paper whites in our entryway as a wintertime floral accent. I've always found the unpleasant scent, and she knows that, but it's not like it gives me a headache or anything, so we just go with it. Anyway, the other day as I was getting ready to go out, it suddenly occurred to me, and I said out loud, this is gonna sound weird, but I just realized that the smell of paper whites kind of reminds me of maxi pads. Wow, that is weird. I've never heard that before. Do you mean fresh out of the package or used? Used, I guess? Just to ask. Asterisk. Well, I'm sorry that the smell reminds you of maxi pads. I can certainly see how that would be unpleasant. Fast forward a few days, and she says to me, now I can't stop smelling maxi pads every time I'm by the paper whites. So, I wasn't out of my mind? No, you weren't out of your mind. Sorry. TLDR. I told my wife that her flowers smell like used maxi pads, and now she agrees and can't get it out of her head. Story 32. TIFU. By thinking I could handle 10 different AI APIs at once. This happened about 2 weeks ago. I co-founded this small AI startup with my friend, and we got a bit carried away with customer requests. Every time someone asked, can you add support for new AI model? We'd say yes without thinking twice. Started simple enough, just OpenAI stuff. Then Anthropic, then Cohere, then Mistral. Before we knew it, we were juggling 10 different APIs, each with their own quirks. You know how it goes. You start with a clean code base and end up with, if model equals OpenAI, do this stuff. Else, if model equals Anthropic, do that stuff. Repeat 8 more times. I realized how bad it had gotten when I spent an entire afternoon just updating API keys, because half of them had hit their usage limits. Meanwhile, my co-founder was asking why our latest feature was taking so long, and I had to explain that I couldn't even test it, because I was stuck juggling all these different API formats. The real oh shit moment came when a customer reported their analytics weren't showing up. Spent hours debugging only to realize I was reading the wrong company's docs the whole time. They all started blurring together after a while. My co-founder walked by my desk, looked at my screen full of if-else statements, and just said, "Dude, what have you done? We're cleaning it up now. One interface to rule them all. But man, lesson learned. Sometimes saying no to feature requests is the right move." TLDR. Said yes to supporting too many AI models at once, turned our codebase into spaghetti, and spent 2 weeks untangling the mess. Story 33. TIFU. By asking a coworker to go see a movie. I hate myself so much RN. I'm cold and my stomach hurts from the anxiety. Maybe it is just my anxiety. IDK, but I may have accidentally asked a coworker out and I did not intend to. I have 2 jobs, one of which gets me free movie tickets. I have a ton to use by the end of the month, so I thought I could ask a coworker from the other job if they'd want to see it with me. There are so very many reasons why I don't like this guy in a romantic or sexual way. Primarily being, I'm not attracted to him and he's like 9 years older. I'm 22F and he's 31 meters. I think the main fuck up was the timing and the fact I was nervous asking because I don't have a lot of friends, and I'm very bad at making them. We were closing together. I waited until we left the building, and on our way to our cars to ask him. He said he was busy. Edit. He said this, but not so many words. Said he'd be busy for the foreseeable future or something like that, but then gave me this look of pity. IDKY, but that sent me spiraling, realizing what I did. So I fucked up again and I messaged him on Facebook, gave up an honestly kind of confusing / cryptic message. "Hey coworker, sorry if this is weird, but I realized that when I asked to see a movie, it may have come off as something I didn't intend. I just wanted to be clear, that wasn't what I meant. And if you didn't think that, great. Sorry for the message, BTWS loudly crying. IDK, can I unsend it? Would Facebook notify him? IDK, Facebook is not something I use. Oh, and the main fuck up from that is that we are not friends on Facebook. I got his Facebook through the group work chat. Anyways, I feel like throwing up, and I'm super freaking out. TLDR. Accidentally asked out a coworker and then sent him a message on Facebook when we aren't even friends on Facebook. Edit. I don't see the message. It's whatever it is at this point. Anxiety is awful and makes ya do weird shit when you're panicking. I also never said I meant to send it someone else, so my plan is to ignore it and move on. I've also been planning on asking other coworkers too, so yeah. IDK still feels awful, though tears of joy. The FB message is the real fuck up here, LOL.